Hey everyone, it's Kelly from Silly Moon Quilting Co. Today we're going to talk about our newest rulers, Cubie and A-Cutie, and how they work with our other ruler, Cheezie. So there's all three, and today we're going to talk about what those look like. You can see here, there's an example of all of them. So if you look at A-Cutie, that's our triangle ruler, so A-Cutie, you'll see that there's different sizes on here from 1/2 inch all the way up to 1.5. And then if you look at Cubie, the square one, you'll see it's the same. So we've got 1/2 inch all the way up to 1.5 inches. And then if you go back to one of our best selling rulers, our Cheezie, you'll see that we've got the same numbers on those rulers. So 1.5 inches all the way up, or 1/2 inch all the way up to 1.5 inches. So you'll see those numbers all work together. And then if you throw in our Spacey ruler, which helps us get that perfect spacing every time, you'll see that we also have the same dimensions on there for options. So what that means for you is it makes it very easy to create a border design like this one here, where you've got everything looking proportioned. So you've got 1 inch square, 1 inch spacing, 1 inch triangle, 1 inch spacing, 1 inch circle, and then any combinations of those that will help you create some really cool designs. So I'm going to show you how they all nest together and how that works, why we did it that way, and then I'm also going to show you how to quickly do this design and how you would measure that out for your space. So I'm going to show you now how all of the rulers, the Cheezie, the Cubie, and the A-Cutie can all go together, nest together. So I'm going to just do a really cheater thing here and just lock my stitches. I'm not bringing up my thread at this point. If I was working on a real quilt and I wanted the back to look nice, I would do that. So we're going to start with Cubie. And we're going to use the 1.5 inch one, so it makes it easier for you guys to see. So I'm going to put it behind my ruler foot, line up my line there. I've got my sticky tape on my ruler, and I've got my gloves on, of course, and I'm holding my ruler down flat to make sure I stay nice and square. I'm going to start slow here, and then when I get to the corner, I'm going to take a pause. And that little pause in the corner is going to help me end up with a nice sharp corner. If I don't do that, then I'm going to end up with a rounded corner. So I want to really make sure I take a pause and stop in that corner and go back to where I started. You can see on this one here I didn't pause quite enough, and this one I paused a little longer, so I ended up with a nice solid stitch there. So that's Cubie, and I'm using the 1.5 one. Then I'm going to go to Cheezie and use the 1.5 inch circle and put that in there, and I'm going to make sure that I'm all lined up here. Now sometimes it's easy to get things a little skewed, so if we want to make sure we're going to be perfectly in that circle, we can pull out our little dude, and we're using this 1/4 inch arm just to make sure that yes, we are going to end up right where we need to be. It's just a good little check, and I'm going to go around in my circle, and that circle is then going to end up within the square and back to where I started. And then I'm going to lift this up, and then we're going to bring in the third ruler that will nest together with this, and that's a Cutie. Kind of confusing, this one's a Cutie. And I'm going to use the 1.5 inch triangle on this one. So again, I'm sliding my ruler foot or my ruler underneath, giving myself lots of room before I bring my ruler foot down so I don't end up with a problem. I'm going to bring this back to me, and I'm just going to nest it and make sure everything stays nice and square. And I'm going to hold on to that, and I'm going to do my triangle. And my triangle will end up within my circle, which will end up within my square. And then I'm going to go back to where I started. Just break my thread so you can see, and that's how that will look. So a triangle within a circle within a square. So the combination of those can be anything. So where on this one, this border design, which I'll show you in a minute, I use the 1.5 with an 1.5 spacing and an inch, inch and a half with 1.5 spacing, 1.5 triangle, 1.5 spacing, 1.5 circle. I could double that up, and each one of these could be that just as easily if I chose to do that. So I've got all my circles, my circle and my square and my triangle there. So I'm going to bring my ruler foot back down here and just lock my stitches just to show you how we did that. So then I'm going to pull Spacey out, and because I was using the 1.5 part of all of my rulers, the 1.5 one, I'm going to now make sure that I use the 1.5 on Spacey just to keep everything looking balanced. So with Spacey, of course, we've got these 2 little indents, and that's what I'm lining up on my center seam here. So I'm going to hold on to that, and I'm going to stitch down my center seam, 1.5 spacing, and then I'm going to, went off there a bit, I'm going to do that all over again. And you can do this in any order if you want, so you can make sure you're lined up, and you can do the circle. So I can go ahead and use my circle there, use Cheezie and do my 1.5 circle. And stop when I get to my center again, bring that ruler up, then I can go back to my 1.5 a cutie or my triangle, giving myself lots of room, making sure I'm still lined up in the center there, and then I can come back and that will stitch within there to the same spot and back over and back up again and stop there. Lift it out and slide it out again. If you're on a long arm doing the same design, this is actually going to slide over the shank part of your ruler, so, or your ruler foot. It's going to slide over there instead of underneath. So again, I'm using the 1.5. I'm going to line up nice and square there, make sure I'm nice and in the right area, and then I'm going to slowly start stitching, and I'm going to take that pause when I get into that corner again, so that I end up with a nice sharp corner. I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to stitch across that way, and then I'm going to stitch back up, and then I'm going to go back to where I started. Now, to get back to this side, if I want to continue my chain, I have a couple of ways I could do that. I could go down the center, but I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to go around again another half turn. And you could do this with the circle as well if you're more comfortable doing the circle 1.5 times. Then I'm going to stop when I get to there. I'm going to lift that out again and then go back to my Spacey and making sure I'm using the 1.5. Line that back up again and come back down. Stop there. And then I would just start the process all over again. I'll do one more just to show you what it looks like as a finished design. And you can do this in any of the sizes. So we've got 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, 1 inch, or 1.5, whatever size you want to do this in. And you don't need to do a straight line. Of course, you could do an angular line. You don't need to keep going all the way back to the center. So I could come out here and start going off on different angles as well using the same technique. So I've done my triangle or my square. I'm going to do my triangle, double checking my line up again, making sure that I'm nice and square, coming in, and back up to that point, lifting my ruler foot, sliding my ruler out, and then using my Cheezie. So again, the 1.5 Cheezie, and I'm going to slide that under, always giving myself lots of room, and then bringing the ruler back to my ruler foot, holding on and going around. And then back up to the top. So I'm going to break that thread, and you can see how then you've got, that's a pretty neat different border design. And if you wanted to, of course, like I said before, you could come out to the side here and do another one. So once I've done my 3 here, and I want to do a whole row of them, say for example I'm doing this in a border, And I want to offset this. So I want to have another square with a circle and a triangle sitting right here. How would I go about doing that? Well, the first thing I need to do is I need to figure out where half is here. So I know that this is 1.5 inches and that I used 1.5 inches here. So I need to take my ruler, my measuring ruler, and I need to figure out where 3/4 of an inch is. And then I'm going to take my marking pencil and I'm going to do a line across there. So I know that that is where the center of my square is. So once I've got my line on there marked, I need to now figure out where I'm going to put my square here so that it looks like it's in the center between here. It's balanced, right? So I'm going to measure from this edge to here, and I am 2 1/4. So I know that the center of this square needs to be at 1 inch and 1/8. So I am going to measure in here 1 inch and 1/8. And this will change depending on how far apart you want your spacing to be. So I've got my 1 1/8 inches. Now I want to have a better line there just so that I can see what I'm doing. So I am going to use my ruler and I am just going to go to 1 1/8 inches along here. And I always measure from the actual seam. So my 1 1/8 inches, oops, that's 1 1/4 inches, 1 1/8 inches mark there. And then I'm going to give myself a little bit of a mark. And we only need to mark the first one. So you can either do this mark at the top or at the bottom. It doesn't matter. So now I know where my square is going to sit. And I'm going to start with the square because I've got the easiest lineup marks on there. And my square is going to sit like that. So I've got a line there and a line there. That is where I'm going to sit nicely with my square. I'm going to lift my ruler foot, bring my ruler down, and I'm going to start over in this corner. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to start right here in the center. This kind of gives me a nice place to start. And I'm going to stitch around my square, stopping there, coming back around the side. Again, taking that pause in the center. And then you can decide what you want to do. And I'm going to go all the way around again. Gives me a nice sharp corner. I could have started in one of the corners just as easily or at the top. I did doesn't matter where you start. So I can stop there. I'm going to lift that up. Then I'm going to bring my circle ruler in. Again, doesn't matter what order you do these in. And I'm going to hold on to that. And I'm going to go around my circle. Stop when I get to the top, lift that up, bring my triangle ruler back in again, give myself lots of clearance, make sure I'm lined up here, here, and here, so that I know I'm square. And I'm going to come down to there, and back over, and back up again. So now, you can see I'll pull this out and we've got our square within a square. So I can then take my Spacey ruler, because I know that I'm using the 1.5 inch spacing. I can bring my ruler foot down and I can look in behind to make sure that I'm nice and square. And I can start again and go back up that line. So now I know I'm there, I can start again. So I could start the exact same process again. So I can start, I can start with my circle ruler. It doesn't matter. You can start with your square or your circle. I'm going to make sure I'm lined up there. I'm going to do another circle. And go all the way back to the top again because I find it's easier if you start at the top all the time. I'm going to stop there. One stitch back, I went too far. And then I'm going to grab my Cubie ruler, slide it under, bring it back down, make sure I'm all lined up, do a nice square, pause in my corner, back up again, and stop when I get to the center. Then I'm going to lift it up, bring my triangle back down. Again, 1.5 inches. So everything's staying nice and spaced evenly. Looks pleasing to the eye. And then I'm going to come back down, over, and back up again to my center point. And then I'm going to break my thread. And then you can see there, we've got a lovely little border design that will keep going all the way up. So you can translate that and move that all the way up your border. So I could then go ahead and do another one on this side and keep going the full length of the border. So I hope you enjoyed that little video, and I hope that makes more sense as to why Cubie, Cutie, and Cheezie are all designed the way they are. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments below or send us a message. And thanks so much for checking us out. If you could like and subscribe, we would greatly appreciate that. Thanks so much and have an amazing day.